Our Maundy Thursday reading comes from the Gospel of St. John in the 13th chapter. Now before the festival of the Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The devil had already put it into the heart of Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray him. And during supper, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God, got up from the table, took off his outer robe, and tied a towel around himself. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet, and to wipe them with the towel that was tied around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus answered, "You do not know now what I am doing, but later you will understand." Peter said to him, "You will never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no share with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." Jesus said to him, "One who has bathed does not need to wash except for the feet, but is entirely clean. And you are clean, though not all of you." For he knew who was to betray him. For this reason he said, "Not all of you are clean." Now after he had washed their feet and had put on his robe and had returned to the table, he said to them, "Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for that is what I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have set you an example, that you also should do as I have done to you. Very truly I tell you, the servants are not greater than their master, nor are messengers greater than the one who sent them. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them." Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man has been glorified, and God has been glorified in him. If God has been glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and will glorify him at once. Little children, I am with you only a little longer. You will look for me, and as I said to the Jews, so now I say to you, where I am going, you cannot come. I give you a new commandment, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. You also should love one another. By this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." The Gospel of the Lord. Tonight, we as a church celebrate Maundy Thursday. It's a day that we are meant to remember both the institution of Holy Communion and Jesus' command, his mandatum, to love our neighbor as ourselves and to love as he has loved us. Tonight, as we celebrate Maundy Thursday, I'd like to share with you a story about love that can help us think about what love looks like. This story was written on a blog called "I Have No Idea What I Am Doing," and it's written by a father about his life as a dad and a husband. He said, "When I asked my 11-year-old son to help unload dirt from our small pickup into his mother's new garden boxes, my son's reaction was typical. I'm busy right now," he said. He was playing Roblox on his laptop, wearing sweatpants and an old t-shirt, lounging on the sofa with his feet on the cushions. "No, you're not," I said. There was a fight, there was moaning, there was excuses, the usual. Moments later, we were next to a wheelbarrow, shoveling dirt. My son looked at me with flat eyes, his eyes covered up with his hood, his shoulders slumped, and he said, "Why do we have to do this?" I thought for a moment, because I'll admit it's a valid question. Neither of us were all that into flowers or vegetables or gardening, the things that would be in those garden boxes. But my wife, Mel, loves gardening. I thought, and he waited, and finally I said to him, "When you love someone, you serve them. I went on telling him that I want him to grow up to be the kind of man who serves his family, his friends, and his community. This, I said, gesturing to the dirt and the garden boxes that we were filling with the dirt, this is what love looks like. My son didn't like my answer, the man went on to write. I could see it in the way he reluctantly began to shovel dirt. We finished unloading the dirt, and the next day while I was at work, the kids and Mel got another load of dirt for the garden. Mel had the day off because it was between school terms, and she sent me this picture of our son. She had picked up another load of dirt, and before she had a chance to unload it, the son started working. When she asked him why, he simply said, "This is what love looks like." As we consider Jesus' actions on Maundy Thursday that we just heard about in John's Gospel, we have a story of what love looks like. Love looks like Jesus bending down in front of his disciples, washing their feet. Love looks like Jesus sharing a last meal with his friends. Love looks like Jesus on the cross for you and for me and for all people. Love looks like service. Love looks like sacrifice. Love looks like laying down one's life for a friend. In our gospel this evening, Jesus says to his disciples that he is giving them an example of what they can do, what they are called to do. He showed an example of love and service that ultimately led him to the cross. We see love in action around us. We hear this story about the Father and his Son and learning what love looks like. Love looks like Jesus. But we also have other examples of love around us in very practical ways. So this evening, take some time to remember, where have you seen what love looks like? Where have you seen in practical actions, in everyday experiences, what love looks like? For me, I can think of so many examples, but I'll share one with you today. My grandma came to mind as someone who loved in very practical ways. My grandma was a woman who showed her love through cooking and vacuuming and cleaning. She would iron everything you owned, including your socks and your sheets, to show you that she loved you. She showed her love by sewing on our buttons before we would ever wear a shirt that had them. She showed her love by baking Christmas cookies by the dozens and pecan pies and chocolate mint ice cream pies. She showed her love by making sure that the laundry was spotless. You may have someone like this in your life, a coach or a parent, a grandparent, a spouse, a friend, someone who shows you love in concrete ways. All those people who live out their love in service are doing what Christ has called us to do today. Now take a moment to think about how you can live out this call to love one another. Perhaps you know a family that's struggling in some way. God is calling you to serve them, to love them. Perhaps God is calling you to look out in our community to see a neighbor who's battling an illness. How are you being called to love them and serve them? Jesus is reminding us in today's gospel that just as he loved and served us, we too are called to love and serve our neighbor. We do it because Jesus loved us so much that he died for us. We do it because he set us his example. We do it because this is what love looks like. Amen.